music career, you had something else invested in your book.
Oh, well, I guess we could start with before you joined, like you said, Sonny'd already started it. Was there a story behind the name, the Crookeds?
It just sounded cool.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I think they were just like partying one night.
Yep.
Like it was probably early hours in the morning, and they're just brainstorming, and someone was probably like, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit crooked," and then one of the boys was like, "The Crookeds."
Yeah, I love that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and they just ran with
clicks.
it. Yeah, I mean, like I liked it too. Like when I first heard of the band, I was like, "Oh, I've heard of that." Like it kind of sounds like something you've heard of already.
Yeah. No.
So it sort of just got ran with for a while. So
that's cool.
That's where the name comes from that. Yeah.
And you have to tell us like how we've read about how like Aaron came into the band and Oscar. I think Aaron's story is particularly interesting. How you guys picked him up. Can you go into like how you convinced him to join the band? Like,
So pretty much like when Sonny and I were trying to find a drummer originally, and we had a bunch of people that wanted to come and play. And we were just trying to pick the right person. And we had a kid at the time message at Melbourne, or our post on a Melbourne musicians page, and was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for a band." And we looked at his like Facebook, like, okay, like we'll get him. It's a funny story for him, Oscar, the drummer, actually, because on the day of it, Sonny rings me up and he's like, "Oh, I don't know, like, have you looked at his photos on Facebook?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't know about this guy, man." And I'm like, "Oh, like." Yeah, I get ya, but I feel like it would be pretty disrespectful to judge his by its photos. You don't want to judge a book by its cover. So I was like, let's give him a crack. And so he's like, "Oh, like, we can call it off." I'm like,
hang on, what made you nervous about his photos?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. They weren't that good. Like,
were you worried he was going to party too much, or
no? Just look, I don't know. Like, he certainly looked really young.
Oh, okay.
And just among other things. So like I guess like you got to look the part. I'm not saying like I'm so sexy, I look the part, but like, you got to kind of look the part to be in a band. And at the time, Oscar didn't. Now he's like one of the sexiest guys ever. So like it works out well. But anyway, so we got him in, and we didn't have a guitarist, so we met Aaron at the local music store. And Sonny was like, "Oh, join," and he was like, "Nah, like I'm kind of just can't be bothered." And he was a really good guitarist. We heard him play at the store, and he kept on hassling him. We ended up getting another guitarist who eventually ended up, I think we sort of ended up getting rid of him. But around the same time, Aaron was like, "All right, fine, I'll join." So just after like probably 12 months of convincing, every time we go to Sky Music down in Springvale and Melbourne, there would be like hassling Azza. And so anyways, he ended up joining. So he ended up leaving as well. So I've left now too, only recently. But Aaron left a while ago. We got a new guitarist in, Brad Viviano, who was really good. And like it was just it tied in really well. Like when Brad joined, so he was a longtime friend of both myself and Sonny, and it was just a real seamless transition to get him in the band. So it was really good.
You got to tell us some crazy like roadie stories and stuff like that, because I remember seeing during lockdown highlights. I'd call it highlights of you guys just doing some. I think I just went back on your Instagram page. You just been doing wild shit like to keep yourself entertained. You know what I mean? Like, there was what was there one that I saw on social media? There was one where they were like trying to shoot you with like beer cans or something. You had to stand on something and balance to win $100.
Yeah. All right, that's a pretty good one. I'm glad that we're keeping it PG. There's probably some stuff that I'm not going to bring up on this podcast. But yeah. So that was just a little promo video that we did for a tour that we were doing. For a single we'd released at the time. I think Never Get It. So every time we'd do a single, we'd pretty much do an East Coast tour. We'd like start at like Brisbane, then go Goldie, and then Newcastle, Sydney. Finish off in Melbourne. And around the same time, Sonny bought himself a gel blaster, which is actually illegal in Victoria, but I think perhaps legal in like Queensland or something. So he like got it sent down from there. I thought it'd be a funny idea. Like we were trying to think of a good way that we could read out the tour dates and people actually listen. It was like, all right, well, Oscar's the whitest, so like, why don't we get him to try and read out the tour dates? And we blast him with this gel blaster because like the welts are going to show up the best on him. Like Sonny's got olive skin, like I got like kind of brown skin, and Azza as well also had brown skin. So I was like, all right, like let's just blast Oscar with it because it'll show up straight away. We did a little test run, and then his welt showed up in a matter of like 1.5 seconds. So we're like, all right, perfect. And so we pretty much stood him on top of a brick, and he had to try and balance on the brick, and we just blasted him with the gel blaster while he read the dates. And it actually got like a massive amount of reach. It went really well. Like every location we went to, we had a bunch of fans like talking about like, "Oh, I saw the video, like you blasting him with the gel blaster." Like it was really funny. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's definitely not one of the wildest stories that we've got. Like,
well, this podcast isn't PG, by the way, so you can go as deep.
I know.
I've got one. Is there ever a fan that's done something like that's really like thrown you out and you thought, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like we've had stalkers and stuff like go pretty hectic.
No way.
Yeah, like trying to catch us like outside of gigs, like just sort of following us to a little amount, like nothing crazy, but like we'd be going back to like somewhere after a show or something like that, and like we'd try and be discreet about it and just catch up with the bands that we're with. Yeah, and then like we've had girls like follow us back. And like we've had guys follow us back, sort of thing, and try and like come in, and we're like, like it's not okay. You can't like follow someone; it's like pretty illegal. Yeah. So like,
have you had any of that crossover then into like when you're at Supercars? Are those same fans then trying to like are they approaching you there because they're band fans?
No, like the band people don't come to the racing people come to the band stuff, but everyone from racing is so lovely. So so it's actually really good. So yeah, I've actually had a lot of crossover fans from racing come to the music stuff as well. Like a fair portion of the fans do. I could nearly say like 5 or 10%. Yeah. But everyone's awesome. Like everyone's just so lovely, and they're just really good people. So that the racing side of things, like it's good. But but just definitely had some odd experiences with the music ones. But yeah, like a funny story is actually we have a brother, or had, and obviously I'm not in the band anymore, which I'm sure we'll get to. But our brother band is a band called Wicked Things. They're based here in Sydney, which is who I've lived with in Petersham when I lived here in 2021 for a few months. We were on tour and we had a show in like Newtown or something like that. I was at the Botany View Hotel. Anyways, we had a band pull out last minute because the singer like broke his ankle or something like that. Yeah. And we decided like looking at pages around like different venues and just trying to find a band. Yeah. So Oscar at the time, the drummer, was like sort of running the show for us, and his message like literally everyone. And I was talking to a girl in Queensland who's a band we'd played with before, and I just mentioned like, oh, we're so stressed, like this has happened. Yeah. And she's like, oh, dude, don't worry, like message these guys, they're always down to play. Like they'll cancel whatever they're doing to play. I'm like, all right. So like we message them, and they like message back within like 30 seconds, like, yep, we'll be there. And so we're at the venue like setting up, and we're like sitting in the green room. So like in music we call like the green. Obviously you know Brooke, but the green room is like sort of where the musos hang out. Like we've got like our drinks and food and stuff like that, and something like backstage, right? So we're chilling in the green room, and these guys, they walk up the stairs and they open the door to the green room, and they all turn to each other and they're like, whoa. And then they're like, like talking to each other. And then we're like at the same time, like doing the same thing. And they walk in, they're like, finally, a fucking band that looks like a band. And we start laughing because we're like, dude, we're just saying the same thing about you. Because like, when you're putting on a show, you got to put on a show. Like, I know like music's also about feeling your soul and being about how you feel, but like you want to kind of look all right to some aspect, right? Yeah. And we sort of at that time had a really bad run with like people just not. I feel like it kind of felt like disrespect to a point. Like it was kind of
not putting the effort into what they look like. Kind of like, so for me, obviously I'm like I'm a bit of a muser, but not like Brooke. But like as you said, like the Eagles over there, or like Kiss, like what you guys were doing, you were dressing like an actual. I understand from that point.
Yeah, well, to be honest, that's just the stuff that we wear day to day. But that is always in mind when we're going on stage. Like we want to feel ourselves, but we also kind of want to like respect probably whatever venue we're at. Like we played a few high profile venues and just had like people coming in like just not looking good, like that were playing for us. Anyway, so we saw these guys and we laughed because of that. And we sort of like hit it off straight away, really. So this band is actually 4 brothers. They're all they're all in the same band. There's only brothers in the band. Wow, it's really cool. Yeah, it's really awesome. So there's another little side story to that. Is their grandfather is Paul Hogan, so Crocodile.
Oh wow,
no bullshit. No way.
To be honest, I don't know if I'm supposed to.
No, it's fine. It's fine because I've actually met him. It's all good.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you a story to that though. So that's interesting. So Paul Hogan, my parents were like. Basically, it's on the harbour and they were demolishing their house, right? Anyway, and I think I was just working in the city at some point, and Mum goes to me at one point. She's like, "Oh, hey, they're filming an ad because they're basically facing the Harbour Bridge, and Paul Hogan did the shrimp on the barbie ad many times in the 80s." Yeah. Anyway, and she's like,
"Oh, being an Australian, if you're over in America, throw a shrimp on the barbie." Like,
basically, So I've come home and I'm just like, oh, whatever, and I'm just thinking I'm basically thinking it's like a brand power ad because we had like that fancy nice kitchen. So I'm like, oh, I'll just walk into my room and get changed. Anyway, Mum goes, oh, by the way, don't be too starstruck, but when you get in, you'll probably see Paul Hogan. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, there's no way that this dude's at our place. And sure enough, I go into the kitchen just to get a snack, and he's there, and he's like, "G'day, mate." And I'm like, "Dude, you're Paul Hogan." Yeah. And I was like, there's this photo of me on Instagram. I'm like, I'm looking full dorky, and I've just got in my thing, and he's like, he's actually a very chill dude. But so that's so awesome,
cool, man. He did a movie like 2 years ago. He's like in his 80s. He's jumping out of a bloody plane.
Like,
oh god,
he's just a machine.
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah. Anyway,
so they're related to Paul Hogan.
That's their mum's dad.
Yeah,
Full
right.
grandpa, man. Like,
Wow.
Yeah, he comes over a lot. I met him like a fair few times. He's an absolute legend, man.
Yeah.
So he had just gone back home, actually. He comes over Christmas every year. So I think he went home like a week ago or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's they're the our brother band sort of thing. They're like nearly like my brothers. Anyway, so at the time we'd only just met. So we walk downstairs, we're watching like the first act, and there's like the singer, he's like wearing thongs like on stage, and the venue had put a really big effort into like dressing up the event for us. And he's wearing like thongs on stage, and he was like dirty from work and had like paint all over him and stuff. And then like at one stage he like kicks his shoes off, he's like playing like barefoot. And I like turned to one of the brothers, because two of them are twins. I turned to one of them, I'm like, man, I'm not saying I'm dressed better than this guy. I'm just saying I'm wearing shoes.
Yeah.
And like that was like sort of like the thing that kicked off our friendship. And after that, like we finished playing the show, and these guys are insane, and like they really enjoyed us. We stood on the street loading in our vans and stuff with all of our gear. And we just got chatting for a while until we look at our phones, and it's 4:30. We'd been standing on the side of the road for 4 hours chatting. We just got along that long.
4:30 a.m.?
Yeah, man. So like we stopped. We probably loaded in at 12:30, and then boom, it's 4:30 a.m. We're like, what the heck? We got to go to bed because we got a show tomorrow. And so did they. Like,
and the bromance began.
The bromance began. It was crazy, and like we've been brothers since then. So yeah, like as I mentioned, like I've lived with them up here, like in their home in Belrose, like not far from here. In the Northern Beaches. Then when they moved to Petersham, like I lived with them there too. And
so you got more of a friendship and relationship in Sydney anyway. Like I thought you were generally just going to come up here for a meeting, but you actually had, like you said to me before on the phone when we were organising this, you know people all over Sydney. Like I just thought you just basically knew a few people in Sydney and we could go back home. But
yeah, no, I do know a lot of people because I've lived here really. So like these boys, they're from here, and then I met them. It was, when did I meet them? It was like the end of 2019 or start of 2020 or something like that. And then COVID hit, and that's when I moved up here for 6 months. And so I was like hanging with them 8 days a week sort of thing, just because we're like best mates, you know.
And you've curtain raised for, I think, Thirsty Merc as well?
Yeah, so the Crookeds, we played for Thirsty Merc twice last year, which is really cool. So that was sold out at the corner there in Richmond, which is like a really renowned live music venue. So we played. We didn't open for him with the main support, and then we had someone open for us. But yeah, that was awesome. Like we're good friends with those guys. Ray Thistlethwaite, the singer, and he plays the guitar with keys. Like he's an incredible musician. Like there's not many people that I would say musically that I've met and sort of just been blown away by. But this guy, man, like he's just incredible. I've seen no one that can play keys like him, and he's just so musical, and he's so awesome to hang out with. He's just a classic Aussie dude, and like he plays for some really, really big acts over in the US, like big musicians like Joe Satriani and stuff. Like he's done a bit with Joe Bottom Massa, like these really good blues musicians, like he's just incredible. Yeah,
you got to tell me more about like obviously the music. I'm finding the whole music industry interesting because you finish at 12. This is the one that you just said then, and you're talking till 4 a.m. in the morning, but now, because you've technically left, the Crookeds right now, but does other bands talk to each other to get you in? Say if like you want to go back into another band, will they recruit you in or?
Yeah, pretty much. Like the music industry, it's like the motorsport industry or any like sport or anything for that matter.
Yeah.
Like, gossip spreads like wildfire, like people knew before we'd even announced it. I've had actually 2 really good opportunities with some pretty high profile musicians. I won't say yet. But it's some really cool stuff. But for me, like there was a bit of a restructure in the band and ownership and stuff like that going on, and it was sort of something that I, was going to have a lot less input going forward on like writing music or even just like getting profits from the band. And just with everything that's been going on in my racing career and uncertainty on what's going on this year, we just decided it's best to call it. Like I'd rather, if I'm not going to be getting as much of a benefit as what I have been the last 5 years from this band thing, then I'm going to pull the pin and spend all my time, all my hours on just making sure my racing career is solidified. So once we got some more stuff going on the next couple of months on that front, then I'll probably look to pursue either of these 2 opportunities. But both of them are really good. So
are you trying to decide now, like the focus is what Brooke was saying when we were starting on you, like do you put all your eggs into one basket for music, and then you were like, I'll just take a break with that, and then now this year, because you want to get it going, put all your eggs into Super 2 to try and get that? Is it hard for you to like change your focus? Because I've got autism, right? So it takes me, God, I don't know, like 2-3 laps to get in the car to get good again. But if I'm doing one thing one week, I got to do it the next week to get that repetition. Or is it for you? It's a bit of both, or you don't really know?
It's not too bad because like for me, like they're both like a career drive, and I get like asked all the time, like, oh, you got to pick one. Which do you choose? I'm like, no, I don't. I can do both, and I'm gonna do both. They're like, no, but you got to pick one. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, you know, if you're only good at one thing, it doesn't mean I can't be good at two. You know. Yeah. So like I've always wanted to do both, but you know, the racing requires far more resources, far more time, money, and effort. And it's, you know, a one-man party here carrying the whole thing. So all of my time and resources has always gone into my racing. And the music stuff takes care of itself. So I think I mentioned before, like, you know, we've got a few other band members to share the load. We got like, you know, booking agents, people like that. So it makes it a lot easier. The band sort of take care of itself in that manner. Yeah. And writing music like we would do together anyway in the studio, so it comes together pretty quickly when we're at a band prac, which we do every Monday. So that was always the easy part. Yeah. The racing is the hard part. So that's all my eggs in that basket all the time.
So for like now going forward with you, because you're trying to get Super 2 off the ground, and obviously maybe Bathurst co-drive, for example, you want to obviously go down that route to be a full-time driver. Yeah. Are you mapping out a way to obviously like use a bit of like the music, the way you was explaining how the music industry works? Are you trying to like flip it to supercars to try and, I don't know, generate income, so to speak? Do you know what I mean? To try and get that to go to supercars. And obviously we've had guys on the couch, you've got managers and all that. Are you thinking of going down that route, or you just want to try and, like Scott Pye, for example, you know Scott. Yeah. He basically does it all himself. Yeah. So are you going to go down that route, or do you want to look for like a driver manager type of?
I kind of like being my own manager. It was definitely hard at the start, like in Super 3 when I didn't have many skills that I could bring to the table, just a bit of marketing experience pretty much when I was at DPE Car Technology. Yeah. So it was really hard to get started, but once I got the ball rolling and I've gotten a little bit better at it, I've got a really big network now. I like doing it all myself because at the end of the day, no one wants me to win more than me. Yeah. So, you know, no one's going to work as hard as me on that front, obviously. Having a manager would be good to tap into some connections and that sort of thing. But to be honest, I kind of think that having a manager when you're a driver can be a bit of a wank. Yeah. Like I've heard team owners, like supercar team owners, say the same thing. Like, come on, like, get your shit together and do it yourself. Like, you just drive in a car and then you're training and probably having lattes and riding bikes during the week. Like, you've got time to manage yourself. Yeah. Roland Dane's someone that's always said that too. He's just like, you know, drivers having managers is a wank. Yeah. I'm definitely not against having it. Like, don't get me wrong here. I'm not I'm not discrediting anyone's manager.
This is your opinion. This is a podcast. We have all our own opinions.
Yeah. And not to discredit anyone that has a manager. Because like it was so hard to get the foundation of me being my own manager at the start. Yeah. And so many times I thought about like giving up and getting a manager. Yeah. But as I mentioned before, it's about finding the right person and ensuring that they're going to be putting in the right effort. Because if I step back and then probably just do a bit more training, ride more bikes and drink more lattes, then someone's got to be doing all that work. And then if it doesn't work out, then someone else is to blame. Yeah. So if anything goes wrong, then it's all my fault, really. And I kind of like it that way.